Imagine being powerless. No voice, no rights. Imagine starting from there, working year round, working when hurt, working when sick, working from the ground up. A woman who had nothing and ended with everything. The story of Elizabeth Freeman.
Well, I think everything about her is heroic to me. I mean, she speaks truth to power. She doesn't take no for an answer.
The one brave act that she did, it actually changed not only the course of history in Massachusetts, it changed the course of history in this country.
Elizabeth Freeman was born a slave in Claverack, New York. At the age of 7, she was separated from her family. She was sold to Colonel Ashley, a Yale-educated lawyer, judge, farmer, and landowner. Bet would grow up a slave in the Ashley household in Sheffield. As Bet continued to grow up, she worked countless hours in the Ashley household, making dinner, making beds, cleaning rooms, and making sure the house was tidy. Reports indicate that though she was treated well, she struggled in her relationship with Mrs. Ashley. Mrs. Ashley was widely known in the town as being a harridan and a shrew because of her uncontrollable temper. One day, Mrs. Ashley was in the worst mood she had been in and took it out on the servant girl, who had taken some scraps of cornmeal to make herself a corn cake. Mrs. Ashley took a red-hot kitchen shovel from the hearth and was about to strike the young girl until Bet stepped in and put her arm up to block the blow. Bet's arm was burnt to the bone and she was outraged. She refused to cover the wound. She wanted everyone to see what Mrs. Ashley had done to her. Bet openly showed off her wound, whether she was serving dinner or doing work in the field. In her 20s, Bet married a fellow slave. He answered Washington's call to join the Revolutionary War, hoping to earn freedom for he, Bet, and their newborn daughter. But he was killed at the Battle of Saratoga, leaving Bet and their daughter with no hope of gaining their freedom.
And Elizabeth had the strength and the fortitude without education, without money, without ownership of anything. She was owned. She was born being owned. She had no freedom, and she fought for her freedom.
After many months and years had gone by, Bet started to lose all hope and had thought she would probably be a slave for life. But hope returned when one evening in 1780, a messenger arrived in Sheffield. A new state constitution has been ratified. Bet went with her daughter to hear it read on the Sheffield Green. The words, "All men are created free and equal," resonated with her. After some thinking, she finally decided she was going to pursue her dream of being a freed African American woman in America. Years earlier, Bet had met a man who would play a key role in her struggle for freedom. The man was Theodore Sedgwick and was an occasional guest in the Ashley home, as the two attorneys were working together on what would be known as the Sheffield Accords. Bet walked 4 miles into the town of Sheffield with little Bet to the home of Theodore Sedgwick. Bet asked Mr. Sedgwick to represent her in a court of law, to make the case that all men are created free and equal, referred to enslaved people as well. Sedgwick was very hesitant at first, going against one of his closest friends, but he ultimately agreed as long as she could find another man to bring the suit along with her. And immediately, she thought of prom. Colonel Ashley began to consistently receive letters about the court case. The The confused slave owner asked Bet why she would go behind his back and do such a thing. For Bet, the answer was simple: she did not want to be owned. It was a hot summer day in New England. When stuffed into a small courthouse in Great Barrington, the jury listened to the arguments from both Mr. Sedgwick and Mr. Ashley. Sedgwick argued that the line, "all men are born equal," abolished slavery in the Commonwealth. The jury would have been made up of local people, almost certainly all white men, but they listened with openness to this legal argument. It may have taken a while for the news to travel across the Commonwealth, but when people heard the ruling, the result must have been earth-shattering. Mom Bet had won her freedom.
She had gained freedom and she became a landowner. She became a respected part of the community that she lived in here in Stockbridge, where she moved, and found her voice and used it. And it's really a remarkable story.
The story of Mom Bet has been somewhat lost to history. Elizabeth Freeman is not the most recognizable name in the story of civil rights in this country. Tammy Denise, performing artist who dedicates herself to telling the stories of enslaved women, had never heard of Mom Bet.
Do you know who Elizabeth Mom Bet Freeman is? I was like, you know what? I've heard this woman's name twice in a very short period of time. I have no idea who she is, but I guess I need to find out.
Elizabeth Freeman was the first African-American woman to gain her freedom. After Elizabeth had passed, she was buried in the Sedgwick family gravesite, known as the Sedgwick Pie. Her legacy will live on in the hearts of those who care about the equality of all human beings and believe in something bigger than oneself.